LEGO launched their Bionicle line of toys in 2001 as a last resort to save the company from bankruptcy, where it was a massive success. It wasn't just the toys, but a multimedia push to the story and lore of the Bionicle universe, from comics included with LEGO Magazine, books, movies, and video games. All with physical media with staying power, but Bionicle's website was a huge part of the series, something that deserves to be honored here. Like any good property aimed towards kids, Bionicle's website was always showcasing and releasing new Flash games. Flash games are generally very hard to review, especially ones from childhood, because the internet just moves forward and things that are meant for kids just get lost. As such, a lot of Flash games are generally lost to time unless someone had the foresight to download it, and even then, only if they shared it on a forum that probably won't appear in a Google search. Thankfully for this series, the Bionicle fanbase doesn't let things go so easily. With a huge amount of Flash games spanning 10 years that could have been lost, it's really fortunate that the Biomedia project exists. They're a website that have archived everything from Bionicle's website, like promo videos and pictures, music, and of course, games, all for viewing either on the site or for download. And it's all neatly organized by year like a good database. For both historical curiosity and some nostalgia, I'm going to look at all the games in sets of mini-reviews, also separated by year. As such, it only makes sense to go back to Bionicle's origin and see how they marketed their product through games back then. First off is Bionicle Attic Media. According to my research, Attic Media is a digital learning company dedicated to putting together media to teach. You got me on what this has to do with LEGO, Bionicle, or this game. I don't even know if it's the same company. In this game, you pick a toe to fight Rahi and the Makuta, but god damn it! It's 3D World Runner. It's just 3D World Runner with a gun. Look, even the boss of every stage is that worm thing from the Game Over screen. The hell kind of game rips off 3D World Runner, a game that isn't even that popular? Okay. This game. Move left and right with the mouse. Despite mouse controls, you can only shoot directly in front of you, jump because you can without any obstacles to jump over, and have fun shooting things with a character so big and at such a bad perspective it's hard to even see the obstacles. I got to the level 3 boss where I accidentally shrunk the window before I got bored. My high score was enough to enter me into a contest. I hope I win. I had more fun playing 3D World Runner to capture footage to use here, and I played for almost as long, too. The second game is Bionicle. Let the legend begin. Hey, it's widescreen, that's nice. It's another contest game. Beat the game in less than 20 turns for the chance to enter. So, was it like a strategy game? Oh, no, it's a matching game. Match the masks. I did it. I'm gonna win. Okay, but those were the minor games, the little ones meant to distract kids for a couple minutes when they're allowed to be on the computer. Now, it's time for the big show, not only the only worthwhile game of the year, but the most popular and fondly remembered Bionicle game overall. It's so big that it helped influence the world of the Mask of Light movie. It's the Madanui online game. And it's in widescreen too. Just starting the game up, it's clear this is where all the production value went. There's actual animation, a lot of drawn assets, and length with the story. Amnesia. Turns out it's actually Takua. The Toa have just arrived on Madanui, but it's your job to do everything because video game. You'll visit all the Koros and uncover the secrets of Makuta and his army of shadows. It's a point-and-click adventure game like Myst. You'll explore the entirety of the island of Madanui, talk to the locals, find items, complete puzzles, and uncover secrets. On a presentation level, this game is pretty nice for the time it was released, and it still holds up pretty well today. The artwork's pretty nice, and the few animated scenes have a certain visual appeal to them. There usually isn't music, and the little there is stock music, so it's better to mute the window and put on some music or game reviews on YouTube. There's plenty of dialogue in the game, and it creates a pretty engaging world. Unfortunately, there are a lot of problems, and they're basically all tied to gameplay concerns. First off, this world is big. Unnecessarily big. While it emphasized the size of the desert, there are a lot of screens when you're going to Pokoro. A lot of screens where there's absolutely nothing to do, just waste time when it could just skip to the next landmark. Uncharted 3, this ain't. And in an attempt to show off how much work went into the environmental art, the location images are different going to and from somewhere, which makes it really confusing recognizing your current location, especially when forks in the road are concerned. You know what would have fixed this? A map in the corner of the screen. I'd be okay if it didn't fill in areas you haven't visited yet, so long as I knew where I was and which paths I haven't taken yet without having to travel 5 screens of nothing forward to see if I recognized where I ended up. Sure, I eventually memorized the map after over an hour of playing, but I still found plenty of new areas toward the end that I didn't know were there, and it's all because the cohesion between the areas is weak. I couldn't tell whether I had been down a road or not because I couldn't tell what it'll look like if I click down that screen unless I've already memorized it. I'll applaud the game for introducing a few gameplay shifts. They're not overall challenging, but it's something else to play. There's a shooter section riding the back of a bird, which I don't think is a gecko bird, thank God. There's a soccer game, and at the end, there's an RPG. Don't expect much out of it. The game attempts to claim there's a Pokemon Elemental system in play, but just click all your Matoran and then click the Rahi like it's Final Fantasy All the Bravest. Oh yeah, and the game broke during this fight. There's some glitches. And then of course there's the game genre being all about exploration and minimalism, something that's not to my personal liking. It's not like other more modern point-and-click games by Telltale that keep things streamlined, and I already don't have much patience for their stuff that isn't The Walking Dead, which is more of an interactive story than a game. I don't have the patience to memorize a world of this size, but I also admit it'd ruin the point if I looked at a walkthrough. It's kinda fun when the plot's moving and you know what you're doing and where you're going, but they're always interspersed with nothing, and that's frustrating. So, while I overall didn't have a great time, there's plenty there if the genre interests you. I admit I didn't finish the game because of that bug I mentioned earlier, but I was close enough to the end to notice there's a few loose ends. The Matoran who is selling the infected Coley balls disappears after his scheme has been noticed, and we never know anything about him. There's a field with carvings of all the Toa's masks with keyholes in all of them, but you only ever unlock one. What about that room you used the sundial to open with the glowing mask you can't interact with? An owner Matoran tells you discs are the best way to fight a certain Rahi, but that's never a concern. Neither are the supposed Rahi in the owner Wahi mines. It feels like the game is unfinished, that these were all ideas that were meant to be incorporated in later updates, but the plot ends. Probably, though it appears there's one cliffhanger. Still, it did its job back in 2001 and earned itself a fanbase. A talented fanbase, as the easy decompiling of flash files means it was possible to mod the game relatively easily, which got a bunch of hacks based on the engine as sequels. One of them, the Bohrok Swarms, currently underdeveloped by Nuparu77, earned itself a spot on the Biomedia project with the official games, which means it's probably worth looking at too. More on the merits of a fan project, as I'm probably not going to really enjoy it. Well, it's most certainly a mod to the Modanui Online game. All the mechanics are the same, the world is almost exactly the same, barring a few little additions, but it surprisingly doesn't carry over all the same problems I had. First off, getting lost just isn't happening because I already know this island structure, that's just the nature of a sequel. It's also much more railroaded. I can see how that might be a problem for others, but this is more of a game of story rather than adventure, as the added abundance of cutscenes demonstrate. It's also cleanly divided into chapters, probably to allow for partial content updates, unlike the first game's I think there's chapters. As of right now, it's one full chapter and a bit of a second. However, it's very clear that this is unfinished. Most of the assets are at a higher resolution than the original, but not all the art has been upscaled yet. There's a lot of text now, but it's filled to the brim with errors. Spelling mistakes, incorrect forms of words, lack of capitalization and punctuation, and inconsistencies. The original game used outdated terminology as a result of its age, and this game tries to update it, but not always. Tohunga has been entirely replaced by Matoran and Jala with Jala, but Huki remains. It's changed to the more recent Hyuki in Chapter 2, but it hasn't been retroactively fixed. The writing is also overall less interesting, not because of the early development, but general scripting. The first game had a sophisticated way of speaking that helped the world, but this one's a lot simpler. I can give it a few praises. While it reuses a lot of art and animation from the main game, the original stuff matches the established quality. of a Flash game from 2001, sure, but it's still a positive. It's kinda nice that Takura is often seen on screen considering he's the main character when he wasn't seen at all in the original. I appreciate the change to a more structured and easily split adventure, and it mixes up the point and clicking with a minigame in the first chapter, unlike the original which backloaded it all. Motoro wants to capture a Muwaka, and he causes an avalanche to trap it, so the two of you have to snowboard down. Another boarding down the mountains of Kokoro, eh? Alright, I'll just get Ice Cap ready. I swear, I didn't edit that in this time. That's in the game. I hope you like the song or this remix, because this game goes on forever. I need to stop talking about it now before I get copyright claims from the Jetsons. Anyway, I think the Bohrok saga of 2002 is more interesting than what happened in 2001. Bionicle the game barely covered this. And finally, it's just always nice to see ambitious fan projects, even if it means it'll never get released in my lifetime. I can't really complain about the game, actually, just because of the work that's gone into making it, presumably by one guy, because I can't find any other names attached to the project. As someone who's given up on mods more complex than music replacements, that's pretty impressive. Well, it was certainly interesting to see what counted as legitimate internet entertainment 15 years ago. That's not a look you get too often. Let's see how much things improve next time when we look at 2 years worth of games. Hello, and thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. If you're not entirely sure, there's a link to watch my previous videos so you can get a better view of what I do. And if you really like what I do, you can follow me on Twitter. More videos are planned, so stay tuned.